Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Denise, can we get a roll call, please?
Director Walper?
Here.
Director Martinez?
Here.
Director Berman? I don't know if he's on yet. Director Johnston? Director Shibahara?
Here.
Vice Chair Wheeler?
Here.
Chair Rydell?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Denise, was the agenda properly notified?
Yes, it was.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Sorry for the late start. Those of you here in person, those of you joining out in the inner world. We had an executive session that went just a wee bit long, and then trying to get some presenters online ready to roll. So apologize for the delay. We'll see if we can make up the time in flight, as the captains say on the plane. So first off, can I get a motion to approve or amend the agenda?
Chair Rydell, I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Raise your right hand.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On to Board of Directors reports. Doctor, you've just been promoted. Director Walper.
I don't know if that's good or bad, depending on what kind of doctor I am. I would like to compliment Christina Irish. I was very impressed with your bit that you did the other day on the internet. It was to the point, succinct, and easily understood, which is very difficult for a financial person to do. I was very impressed. Thank you so much. That's it.
Awesome, thank you. Director Shibahara.
No report tonight.
No reports? You know? I think I do. I do this way.
No reports tonight.
How many?
Now you.
Okay. Just real quick, I had the pleasure of sitting into the Escada Middle School wrestling parent meeting right before our executive session. New coaching staff there. I think he's bringing new energy to the group there. It seems like a good group of other coaches that are there that are Escada alumni, some recent and some not so recent. And I think that whole group is going to have good success this year with that new coaching staff. Vice Principal Kelly was there, and he gave a spiel about the wrestling program and parent expectation and kid expectation. So good job. I think that whole group has a lot of success ahead of them.
Awesome.
That's it.
All right. A couple things for me. So this weekend, I know I mentioned it last month, but this weekend is the All-State Music conference in Eugene. So Estacada, I believe, has 3 students that were selected to perform, 2 instrumentalists and 1 vocalist. So that's happening. Those performances, I believe, are on Sunday. So I'm excited to be down there to watch those. 2 weeks from tomorrow, mark your calendars, Mary Poppins opens, the high school music performance of Mary Poppins. It'll be a Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday matinee, and Saturday evening show. So the kids and staff are working incredibly hard. If you saw their rehearsal schedule right now, it would make you a little tired. I know it's making the kids tired, but it's going to be a great show. So excited about that. We will allegedly have Bert and Mary both flying in the show as well. So yeah, very excited about that. I'll save that for next one. High school basketball, had an opportunity to announce the varsity girls and boys basketball games over the last few weeks, so been excited to see those games, and our kids are playing hard and competitive against some really tough teams, so excited about their progress. And then I know I talked to a couple participants on the swim team, which is a new group for us, so some excitement around that as well of adding additional activities that our student athletes can participate in. So I know that makes Mr. Hobson very happy. Which one?
All sports.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And I don't have the list, but the list did come out this last week for the fall all-state selections for athletics. And all-state, I do not believe we had any in soccer. Do we have an all-state?
We had two boys
Hafes and
Paulson.
Okay, so Ben Hafes and Josh Pallison had all-state nods for boys soccer, which is huge. And then football, we had a handful of them. So offensive player of the year, all-state, defensive player of the year, all-state, all-state quarterback, all-state running back, all-state linebacker, several all-state linemen. So I know I'm not doing justice, which is why I'm not naming any names, because I know I'm going to forget one. But a really, really good showing. And I can tell you, I got calls from youth football coaches from over the years calling, and we're super stoked for Estacada getting that recognition and having such a great year. So my apologies, I did not come prepared with the names. Give me a minute and I'll pull it up and I can find them. But nice job, everybody. And that's all I got. All right. Item D, Pillar Leader Reports. First up, Student Success with Scott Sullivan and Jen Berman. Come on up. No, you're good.
I think I'm going to be the front load of that specific slide. If you'll turn it to the next slide, I think. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Mike, did you not get the? Okay, great. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. I'm Scott Sullivan, Director of Secondary Schools, and by my side we have,
Jennifer Berman, Director of Elementary Schools.
and we're here to share with you a quick spotlight report on the Student Success Pillar. And we want to begin with some wins. And we felt like we had a pretty successful year in many respects, and one of those key wins we had was that on our PLC survey in the fall, we scored a 4.06. What does that mean? Well, our goal was a 3.96, and we really knocked that out of the park and did very well. We also, in our district services survey, our goal was to reach a 4.54, and our department was able to score a 4.67 overall mean score for our department and district services. By the end of the 21-22 school year, we hope, and we had set some lofty goals, some aspirational goals of 100% of our students to meet all of their essential learning standards. We did not reach that 100%, but I do want to share and celebrate a win. Over the last 3 years, we've gone from 72 to 68%, 72%. Last year, we hit a 77% mark. Long way to go, but we do want to recognize the growth and continued progress we're making towards that goal. Speaking of that 77%, one of our opportunities is that we have 23% at the end of last year that still did not meet our goal, and I think it was their goal too, because when we meet with students, we identified, or we hear them say that that's their goal. So we've got to figure out how and we can get them over that hump and get that extra 23%. Another area that we struggle in is our PLC teams trusting one another. Our most recent survey data shows that only 3.57 score out of 5 say that they trust one another to share the data, to share the risk, to share what they know and what they don't know. And so we're going to be putting some things together to try to work on that.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Can you go back one more? So how does that tie to the first one where you got the high score?
The high is 77.
No, the PLC survey.
Oh,
Excuse
the
me.
overall survey was
around
a win,
PLC.
Different survey.
but
Okay.
the other one was a specific trust.
Opportunity within the PLC. Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Thank you for
Scott,
helping me clarify that.
That trust issue, what do you think causes that?
That's a good question. I think there's a lot of factors. One of them is that we have a lot of new teachers and they're working with, for the first time, with adults in a situation where they're asked to collaborate and share and be vulnerable. And then human nature. We still have some people that are very vulnerable and don't trust letting their weaknesses known. And so I think the more we practice and the more, and we're doing, I think, a great job of this, allowing people to make mistakes. And we use the phrase fail forward. And that's kind of becoming more of our culture, and that is helping us move along. But I think it's really a human nature thing.
Quick question. On that 23%, I'm assuming that we know is it at an elementary level versus middle versus high school? Percentages of who's not meeting those standards?
Yeah, that is a K-12 percentage, but we have it broken down even by student. We know exactly who it is, yeah.
Thank you.
So with all of that Mr. Sullivan talked about, we have some next steps and things that we're going to do in this next round. The first one is supporting our leaders, our principals, in PLC evidence-based questions and data. So we had the amazing opportunity of having Ken Williams come into our district, and with that, he really kind of inspired everyone with some new passion on our PLC process, and also gave our leaders some really good questions to target and use in our PLCs in the rounding conversations that target the process that we do. So we are going to start doing that and supporting our principals in that work. The second piece we're going to do is just continue to measure those readiness indicators. Those are the things that give us that 23% and by student information. So we're looking at proficiency in our ELSs. We are looking at work completion, and we're looking at attendance. And so we update that weekly, and then principals are looking at that and trying to figure out what they need to do based on that data to support teams on a weekly basis. So what systems do we have in place as leaders to make sure that that's happening? There's accountability to it, and we're using some of our tier time to have those conversations. And so we're just going to keep working on that and get better at that process. The third one we have is leading our principals and supporting and holding a system to all of the important pieces we have in place. So we have our essential learning standards, we have our new instructional materials, and some of our old as we adopt more. And then just our overall continuous improvement best practices, and we'll do that through our walkthroughs that we have been doing. We've been doing them monthly and also preparing for the big one on March 14th. But with that is, accountability, trust, practice, and opportunity to learn and grow. And we will continue to support that system in all 4 of our schools and support our building principals in that work.
Do you have any questions?
I do. With the essential learning standards, how often are those looked at as as a group for math at 7th grade? Are they yearly looked, or every year they're looked at and adjusted, or are they standard over a course of 3 years, or how does that look?
So we do a lot of work in the spring, so we can take kind of the data from the end of the year and talk about what did we accomplish, where are we at on that. We do some work in the spring, and then we readjust for the fall. So there's work in spring and in fall. And usually by end of September, we have the new year set so that we can get into Power School and have our report cards ready to go. So it is adjusted yearly,
Okay.
but with multiple opportunities to look at the data.
All right, I've got a question. About a year ago, Ben sat up there and gave a presentation on the junior high. And I asked the question of the low balls that he was having a problem with. If the majority of those came from our elementary schools or if they came from out of district. I don't believe that I've really gotten a good answer on that yet. How are we doing now? Do you know?
I could tell you my belief. I don't have the data in front of me, but I believe that we have the vast majority of our students in middle school come from our elementary schools. I don't have that percentage, and I think that's something we should get so we could share with you soon on that.
Yeah, I'd really like to know if that's getting better or not, and if not, why.
Yes. And I would say, though, based on our data this year, we have a comparison. We have some new charts and graphs that show us where we were this year, time last year, and where we are this year. We do see some increased growth across the board compared to last year this time.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Next up is Inclusive Culture. Jason Hobson and Lisa Aikens, come on down.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. All right, Lisa and I are going to chat about give you an update on our 90-day pillar update on our inclusive culture pillar. And just a quick reminder, this does include 3 different surveys that we look at. So our student engagement, district services, and employee engagement. I'm going to talk about student engagement first, and then Lisa's going to talk about district services and employee engagement after that. So right off the bat, our student engagement, this is a big win for us this year in the last 90 days, in that our students, this is an opportunity for us to hear what our students are saying and how they're experiencing school. And so this is a great win for us this year. That overall mean score improved from a 3.85 to a 3.98, which is plus 0.13, which is huge. And this has shown some really good growth over the last 90 days. One of the highlights in that survey was that students are telling us that their principal is a good leader, and that had the highest score at a 4.37. Also, our curriculum that's outside of reading, writing, and math is also really a strong point for us, and our students are telling us that they enjoy, of course, art, music, and PE, and that learning is important in their school. That was, both of those questions scored a 4.30. So that's a really awesome point for us. A couple more highlights in that win for our students is that we had 176 more students participate this year versus in spring. They also noted that that they are able to track their own learning. That was a score that scored higher in the fall than it did in the spring. So the work that we're doing of sharing our deepening the goal down to the student level is coming across, and they're hearing that. Also just wanted to highlight that in the high school, they had some really good growth areas on 3 particular questions, and that my family is treated with respect, and that students regularly receive feedback from their school about their academic progress, and that they have opportunities to be successful at their school. So those were some wins that our students were telling us about. At the same time, these surveys always give us opportunities to continue the work, and that, again, it's an opportunity for us to work with our students and being respectful and kind to each other. So this was the one question that was the lowest score in the student survey, so we will again continue to work on that. But it also improved. So I want to note that yes, it's still an area for us to work on, but it improved from a 3.24 to a 3.42. So good growth, but still an opportunity for us. And then another opportunity is that our leader action plans, so our building leaders have plans that are measurable, provide timely feedback, and that are actionable. So we're taking a deeper dive in that. And that kind of leads to the next step. As a leader, as a pillar leader in this, improve the fidelity of those leader action plans so that we're taking a closer measure of, are you implementing the plans that you said you were going to, the steps, and that we can measure with fidelity, are you doing those things? And in turn, that should improve the scores that we're looking for. So that's kind of the next step for me. Do you have any questions in particular about student engagement piece before I turn it over to Lisa?
Not a question, but that last slide with the respectful and being kind, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, again, as you noted, where we want it to be, but what is that, an 18 basis point improvement?
Yeah.
That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
any 15 basis points when you're in that score range is meaningful movement, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, it's still a low, but there should be an exclamation point behind that one, I think, because that's a large growth in a really hard one to move because it's so subjective.
Absolutely.
From a student standpoint. So.
And it's definitely the indication that we are on the right track. We're not there yet, but we're on the right track, so.
Yeah.
Is this from K through 12?
Correct, yep.
Okay, and are you seeing any particular trends? I mean, I guess you're reporting district-wide, but I don't see anything building-specific or
I do have
age-specific.
building-specific.
Wonder
but
if they're significantly different or if it's pretty
They're
much-
pretty similar, just a few, tenths difference across the board. That's where we're seeing.
I can provide that to you individually as well.
Yeah. Any others? Oops, sorry.
It's okay. I think I can read it from here.
Okay.
Sorry, new glasses. So tonight, I am going to talk to you first about employee engagement, and we'll follow up with the district services. Based off of the employee engagement survey, the district is currently across the board at a 4.1 district-wide. Although that's slightly less than the spring pulse check, we still consider this a win because any score over 4 is telling us that we have a healthy system. And that's noted by and validated by our 96% participation rate this year from our staff. as well as for the third year in a row, we have gotten the Top Workplaces Award in the state of Oregon, and we're really excited about that once again. We know thematically our action plans have been centered around providing clear expectations for staff, and we are proud to share that our survey score in this question specifically has increased from 4.1 to 4.30. Our food services department, our team provided additional training opportunities through bi-monthly meetings. They work to improve cascading communications and leave positive feedback for staff. The nutrition services team scored, the nutrition services team's score and the expectations for judging my performance clearly increased by 0.26. They are currently at a 4.36, and we're really excited that our new Director of Food Services has taken this on as a challenge to continue to improve this. Lastly, another great win is for our Estacada High School. It also showed tremendous improvement in this score by a 0.57. This is up to a 4.43, and we are grateful for our leaders who took the time to listen to our staff and made adjustments based on feedback they received. The high school created a summary document in alignment with our evaluation handbook that shows educators exactly what is expected in a simplified version. This one-page document also includes the agreed-upon expectations for student behavior, so all staff are in agreement with holding the same expectations for our students. Having everything on one page and leaving feedback right away are leading to increased transparency and accountability for all. Sorry about that. Our next opportunities. We have found that the timing of our data collection is more lagging than it is leading, and so we need to start working on that. This is also affected, our data was also affected by things the survey doesn't account for. Our staff told us two things hindered our employee engagement score. One, climate-controlled classrooms, and number two, aggressive student behaviors within the classroom. But positive adjustments have already been made. As you know, school board approval of the funding for the climate control systems and building level staffing has made an immediate impact. Simultaneously, our student services department have been working tirelessly to meet employee needs, supporting all K-12 students. We expect to see spring results reflect these changes. Okay, next steps. More micro-focused leader action plans. Our next steps in employee engagement, addressing barriers and continuing the right work, will be narrowing the lens and focus on intentional rounding to get to the root cause, digging deeper into our understanding of continuous improvement, and ensuring that our staff are on board with the why behind our work. We'll continue to hardwire our always actions and celebrating the things we know are working. Our teams have already begun the work collaborating and building the micro-focused leader action plans and keeping it simple. We encourage specific feedback and being solution-oriented. Always while remembering, a piece of our foundation in this work is to go slow, to go fast. This quote here, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend 4 sharpening my axe, tells us exactly this. We have an amazing staff with strong leaders, and the work here in the district is something to be very proud of. Do you have any questions on employee engagement before I proceed?
I do. So intentional rounding is something we've heard quite a bit over the last couple of years. So can you tell us more what you mean by intentional rounding and what changes you have made over the last couple 90-day cycles as we've seen, you know, the needs for those
So it's more
change.
narrowing the focus, what's really making a difference, right? Instead of going in and saying what's working well, we're honing down on what's working well in your kitchens, what's working well with the student achievement within your class. We're going down to a deeper level so we can be more specific and try and track the right data to make the growth.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. And I also believe that Top Workplaces Award, we're the only school district on that list. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Just wanted to make sure that was out there for everybody listening.
Yep.
Yeah.
Only school district in the history of that competition to win it 3 times in a row.
3 times in a row.
Earn it.
Earn it. Thank you. Not win it. Earn it.
Earn it.
Okay, we'll move on to district services, which is the district services survey. Our district services teams continually strive to uphold the 9 principles for organizational excellence. Over the last 90 days, our district services teams really honed in on 3 of those principles. Principle 1, a commitment to excellence. Principle 3, build a culture around service. And Principle 8, communicate at all levels. In keeping our commitment to excellence by delivering the best possible experience. We need to celebrate our district services team who scored an overall rating of 4.49 on the fall survey, with an overall top box percentage of 60.73% from the respondents. Basically, this is a 5 out of a 5 rating. To ensure communication is happening at all levels, our IT department has implemented Google Chat throughout the district as a new line of communication to increase the timely communication and decrease the email inbox traffic, which is greatly appreciated by everybody. As we continue to build a culture around service, our transportation department heard the need for more two-way communication. Back in the day, teachers used to have to file a piece of paper to get a field trip to get going. So what they've done is they've created a new electronic field trip request. They implemented this during this last cycle, and it allows the teacher now to do everything electronically, put down the date, everything, even if they need sack lunches, they submit it, it goes to the principal, it goes to the transportation department directly. They can review it. Once the principal approves it, they approve it, and it goes right back to the teacher. They're golden. Anybody who's involved with that field trip, like food services, also gets a notification saying, I need 12 sack lunches on this day. It's been a great tool for our teachers to use, and so far, no tweaks, but I'm sure it'll come soon. So again, an overall commitment to excellence, building a culture of service while communicating at all levels. We're going to shout out to all the district services departments for the hard work throughout this last 90-day cycle. This moves into our opportunities. As we move into our next 90 days, our opportunities remain the same. Maintaining the level of service and data collection. While the district services goal remains at maintaining a 4.51 level of service, our overall mean scores for our operations and timeliness go hand in hand. Although they are strong ratings, how can we improve our operations in order to be more efficient and or timely, and how to set the right leader action plans to maintain and or increase our overall level of service? The data collection for the leader action plans must be meaningful data. Is what we're measuring truly moving the service dial? Is it getting to the root cause, and are we delivering that best possible service? Next steps for our district teams. We're going to work with the leaders to build strong, in-depth data collection measurements to make sure what we're measuring matters. Encourage the district services teams to begin reviewing department operations for more streamlined systems to increase efficiency and timeliness. Be more intentional and proactive to seek out opportunities for customer service, and again, delivering the best possible experience for all stakeholders. On behalf of Jason, Kelly, and myself, we want to thank all the leaders for their great work and their collaboration within their buildings. We also want to thank the school board for your support in our work, and also for the many hours of volunteering and supporting our students and staff. Happy School Board Month. Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
On this last slide, when do you expect to implement those?
This very last one?
No,
Want me to go back one
no,
more?
you go back to where you just were. Go forward.
I'm going.
Yeah. You were saying that you were expecting to do a number of things, and I was just curious, when do you expect to have that completed, or?
So this is
have
for
you
our next.
started it?
Yes, this is for our next 90-day cycle. Most of our leaders have already created their leader action plans, and the roundings have already begun. So we're setting them up with more in-depth plans. Some of us have already started with our operations and seeing where we can streamline things. We know that some of our departments are more cyclical than others, and I'll take HR as an example. You know, we have hiring season in April, and then our August timeframe really kicks in. So we're trying to figure out what we can do now to help offset that time later, so we can keep up our timeliness ratings.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, up next, Engaged Families and Community, Maggie Kelly, come on down.
Good evening. I'm excited to present some of our wins and opportunities for the Engaged Families and Community Pillar. We'll be mostly going over data that we received in the Parent Experience Survey. So I first want to go over the wins. When speaking about that Parent Experience Survey, one of our biggest wins is that our Parent Experience Survey participation was higher this fall than in spring and fall of the previous year. This, of course, just means that we're hearing from a wider subset of our families. We heard from more families that speak a language other than English as their first language, and we just heard from more families overall. So we're glad that we're able to make actions that correlate to a wider variety of the district and families. Another win was the statement, "I am proud to say I have a child at this school," increased by 0.05 from spring. This is just a core tenet of what we do, and it's always good to hear that families are proud to be a part of the Estacada School District as we try and live out that mission and vision of being a premier school district. And then another win, I want to celebrate and recognize Rivermill Elementary School in particular. They saw a really large, almost 0.2 increase in their lowest scoring statement, which is, "I regularly receive feedback from school staff on how well my child is learning." This is the lowest scoring item from every building, and so this was something that they built their action plans specifically around, and we saw at almost every building increases on that lowest scoring item. So it's good to see that those action plans are making an impact there. Some opportunities that we have, our overall parent experience score, so not the lowest scoring item, just all of the items overall, we didn't see an increase. So we went from a 3.96 in the spring to a 3.95 in the fall. So this is something to continue to work on, to hear more input from families to ensure that we're breaking through just kind of the stagnation of the scores and really improving based off of the parent feedback. And then a theme that we heard in the comment section of the Parent Experience Survey that we really want to hone in on with families is just communication overwhelm and fatigue. I am proud that we've reached this level of communicating at really high levels. Now we've gotten to this point where we need to look carefully at what we're communicating to families so that important things aren't getting lost in all of the messages, and just really streamlining that. And to back that up a little bit, again, I am really proud that our buildings and our staff are communicating so much with families. This bold line you'll see is our current year communication in Parent Square, our mass communication platform with families, and the dashed line is last year's communication in Parent Square month by month. So you'll see that we've had a definite increase this year. So again, proud to be doing more outreach to families, but how can we be more intentional in sending out the communication that families really need to hear so that nothing is getting lost? So with those opportunities and wins, our next steps are that most of our buildings, when they were looking at their action plans, want to do rounding with families, having individual conversations, facilitating a lot of discussions, and hosting focus groups with families to really learn more about what information is too much, what do you need to hear more of, so that we can make a difference in those scores and see an increase for the spring of this year. We need to hear more from families on what specifically they're wanting to hear from us. And then lastly, a big next step that you'll hear more about this evening as well. We are on the last year of our 5-year strategic plan, and we have the opportunity to really engage with families and our community in a powerful way as we build our new strategic plan and vision for the next 5 years. So we're excited to really bring families and the community to the table and talk about their vision for our schools so that we build a school district that is reflective of the values of our community. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Maggie.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious how many families respond to you percentage-wise. You know, is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 50%? What do you think? Have you got an idea on that?
Like what responses we get on an average message? I know on our parent satisfaction survey, we got about a 35% response rate. On the average message we send out, we get about 85% of our parents viewing the message, but it's difficult to facilitate that two-way communication, and that's what I think some of the rounding and the focus groups can bring in more of that back and forth a little bit more.
Well, I'm impressed that at least 85% of them are looking at it.
Yeah.
I would not have thought it would be that high at all. That's great.
Because it
why
pops
there's-
up on my screen and I can't get rid of it.
It's also why they're saying they're fatigued.
I will say, since switching to Parent Square and having phone notifications and text messages, it has significantly increased that number. But it is, as you said, why we need to be really cautious about not overwhelming our parents.
Awesome. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
John, do you get the notifications?
No, I really don't.
Oh, we need to get him hooked up.
We do, we do.
You would have gotten a great text message at 6:50 this morning.
I don't need those. I'm retired.
Maggie, I will repeat what you said, right? It's great that we're at the point where we're now starting to feel fatigue, because it wasn't that long ago, as we talked about earlier today, that the pendulum was clear the other direction and people didn't feel informed and didn't feel like they knew what was going on. And so I feel we're in a good spot where we pushed far enough to where we know now this is kind of where we're bumping up, where we need to start reining it in a little bit. So I'm confident that we can find that sweet spot. But
Yeah.
great job to you and your group to getting us there in really a pretty short amount of time.
Thank you. We look forward to the next 90 days. Thanks,
Awesome.
guys.
Thanks, Maggie. All right, next up to date buildings and facilities. Mr. Mike Ware.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Happy to report our last 90-day cycle on up-to-date buildings and facilities. There are a lot of wins to harvest, as well as some opportunities and adjustments to make going into the next 90 days. First, I'd like to just highlight that in the fall of 2022, we set an aim or a goal to score a 3.98 on the My School is Clean question on the student engagement survey. Our baseline data was in fall of 2021 when we scored a 3.88. And we'll talk again more about some wins and some opportunities and next steps. First, some wins. Overall district score increased by 0.09. I think that's a great recognition of our leaders and our building leaders and department leaders from spring over to fall of 2022. We obviously shut down during the summer, so a lot of dedicated work happens over the summer to reopen schools for students as they come into the fall. Capital improvement projects improved the teaching and learning environment, as well as kept schools clean, safe, warm, and dry. As reported before in previous board meetings, our turf project that was completed in 2022 allowed our middle school students use the turf field on an average of 33 hours a week. That's a significant increase and something we haven't seen in the past. We know that our athletics department and youth organizations also had a significant increase of the use of that area. It also allowed our middle school to be cleaner because we weren't dragging in mud from the football field after using it during PE. The walkway at the Rivermill Portable improved ADA access and safety, and the installation of 3 heat pumps, mini split units at Rivermill improved the teaching and learning environment as well by controlling the indoor air quality and temperature control. We also took an innovative way to approach recruitment and retaining of quality staff for a demanding position, and specifically in our custodial department. Evidence told us that it can be very difficult to hire a night custodian, a full-time night custodian. So because of the other demands or traditional jobs that are out there. So we adjusted our working hours to reach demographics such as college students and stay-at-home parents. And right now we're fully staffed, so it's showing that this innovative idea is working, and we're going to continue going forward. Oh, that was my next slide, sorry. Some opportunities. Our efforts, while intentional and specific, really shows that student voice have reported that our aging facilities continue to be a barrier as what they see is clean. And so that's a great opportunity for us to work with our students from all levels, K-12, to really change that perception and work in one-on-one in different groups. We also recognize that engaging all stakeholders through different platforms on up-to-date buildings and facilities and the efforts by the district is an opportunity. How are we engaging our parents? How are we engaging our teachers and all the other stakeholders through various platforms, not just through social media, but open forum meetings, one-on-one meetings, and roundings. And then finally, going to our next steps, while we review the systems and as well as our processes in this pillar, we are adopting a new indicator question, and is the school clean and maintained on the parent satisfaction survey. So it's a great opportunity for the district and myself to lead through this, and again, engaging our parents to when we do our strategic planning, our long-range planning, and really show and try to get more evidence on how we can improve this score and improve the cleanliness of our building for our students and all of our community. Any questions?
Yeah, I had a question on the previous slide. Or maybe not. Anyway, where you were saying that the aging of our buildings
Yes.
may be impacting our students' perception of
Yes.
cleanliness. Do you see that in specific buildings more so than others? I mean, can you see that breakdown by?
Yeah, we can
buildings?
see that through, we've done a more intentional open forum group discussion at the high school.
Okay.
And we are seeing
So
that.
in particular, the high school
the
is
high
where you're
school, yeah.
seeing a
Yep.
lot more feedback in that.
Correct. The last 90-day cycle, we, myself with Leo Rydell, had some open forums with our student leadership groups, and we're able to glean some valuable information on what they see as clean, what they would like to see changed within the school. But it's primarily been at the high school that we've been getting that information.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, that's it. Thanks, Mike. Thought that was an in the middle question. All right, next up, sustainable finances and accountability with Christina Irish. Recently famous YouTube Christina Irish.
Thank you. Good evening, board. I'm excited to talk to you about some wins and some opportunities and our next steps for the sustainable and accountable finances. Like the other pillars, we did have many wins to report. The first, I'm happy to announce that our 2021-22 audit is complete, and we did not have any findings. This is the fourth year that we've done that, and I want to thank the district, the staff, for their hard work on following the rules and procedures. The next one is we completed the annual financial report, ACFR, for the first time. So as a state entity, we are required to report financials to the state. This year, we stepped up our game and we did an ACFR. And what this is, it has additional sections. And with this, we are showing more financial transparency. We are also able to submit, which we did, for 2 awards. And if we do receive those boards, we do get higher bond ratings. So we're very excited, and I'd be very happy. You can take a look on our website, and you all have one in front of you. It does, if you look through it, you can see our financials for the last 10 years at the end of the section in different formats, our FTE in different. So there's a lot of different information you can pull out of there. The next win is the district's commitment to strategy number 2, create reserves, and strategy number 3, alternative revenue source of the finance pillar, has allowed the district to purchase the turf field using our capital project funds. Capital project funds was mainly funded by our CET money, which is money we receive from the city and from the county on permits issued in our area. The next is the purchase of mini splits or the air quality control or AC. We already have purchased some of those at River Mill, and we are in the process of purchasing more for some of our other hotter classrooms. We are using some energy funds for that and some grant funding. And the final is to hire. We were able to hire staff to address important classroom needs. We hired a roving sub, additional classroom teachers, and additional paraeducators. And we've used both some one-time grant funding for that and some of our ending fund and our beginning fund balance in our general fund. And now on to the opportunities. There we go. Okay. Next step. Nope. Okay. Opportunities. So one of the things is what questions do our stakeholders have about district finance, and how do we reach everyone? One of the things we've learned, again, you've heard rounding, is we need to reach out to our building leaders, employees, to find out what questions are being asked about the district finances. And then we need to find out the best way to cascade the why the district makes financial decisions. Using different platforms, maybe some flyers, maybe some of our social media, just finding the best way that they will connect to our stakeholders. And then another opportunity we have is customer service response time. In finance and in business, we have many rules, guidelines, and procedures that we need to follow that sometimes slows down the process. While that sounds like an excuse, we're going to use an opportunity to share with our employees and our staff our procedures and create timelines and workflows for them. So our next steps, we're going to focus highly on customer service. We're going to have a business department standard responses. When do you need that by? Is this what you were looking for, or is there anything else that we can assist you with? And then we're going to create some workflows and procedures for our departments and our employees and our users to better assist them and throughout the day. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Any questions on this? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
We'll see you later tonight.
Will you just click that next slide real quick? I got it. Go ahead. So in conclusion, first of all, I'm very proud of the work that our pillar leaders have shared and displayed, as well as their overall leadership. But just very fastly, I just wanted to present to the board, as well as the public, our intention for the next 90 days. And so it's been clearly communicated our goals and our benchmarks that we've now officially established and set in pen or stone or concrete, whichever metaphor you choose. And ultimately, the Estacada School District is going to work intentionally with a focused effort in an effort to hit all of these benchmarks on the final 90 days of our 5-year strategic plan.
So this is the proposed scorecard for the 2022-2023 school year.
This is the scorecard for the district.
Okay.
For the next 90 days.
Okay.
Different than.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Can we get that attached in the board book?
Yes. Yep.
I'm just looking at student engagement going from 374 to 389. So once we drop below 375, then it's a 15
It's a
basis point.
0.15.
Okay,
For
375
meaningful
is the,
movement.
is
Correct.
the delineating line.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Cool.
Yep. And 4.4 is the maintain line.
Yeah.
One thing I want to comment on with all the pillar leaders that got up here and gave the reports, the format that it came to us. In years past, we've done different ways of understanding where the school district is as a whole and breaking this down into the 5 pillars. It makes it easy for us to digest. Hopefully it's easy for everybody else to digest that's in the audience here tonight, and that hopefully looks over this later on YouTube or wherever it is posted. But the same format of wins, opportunities, and then the leader action, next steps, or adjustments. It's all kind of the same terminology, but it's from the top down and not, I guess that's not the right to say it, but you use it, everybody underneath the building principals use it, and it's all the way down to the students that are using it on their daily goals. And so it's a common knowledge and a common language that is used frequently. And I can talk to my kids at home, and they can say, well, here's what I'm doing well as a win, here's some opportunities, and here's some adjustments that I need to make, and whether it's reading scores or whatever. So it's something that the strategic plan and the whole district has worked towards for this last 4.5, 5 years.
Yeah.
And I don't say it as well as you do, but you can elaborate on things if you need to. But it's neat because when Ken and I first got on the school board, there wasn't any common language. And we would have Scott Sullivan come up and he would give, is he still here?
No.
He's gone. He stepped out, but he would give his fun facts and things look great. but there wouldn't be that follow-up of what do we need to adjust. And then somebody else would come up and say something, and it would be totally a different format. And so I appreciate that it's all kind of come together to this, and we can easily digest it, I guess.
I agree.
Said.
All right,
That's it
that's it
for this.
for item D. We're now on to item E. District report, this is I should have said this at the beginning. This is a report-heavy meeting, everyone, so. Duly noted halfway through. District reports, which are different than pillar reports, so let's go to district reports. First up is the communications report with Maggie Kelly.
Good evening again. I'll make our communications report for this month brief, but what we have worked on in the past 30 days in the communications department, our projects in progress right now are one of the things we are sending out over the upcoming week is our parent opt-out communication, which is regarding, we have a lot of school tours that we're doing right now as we try to be transparent and open our schools up to the community and let them see the work that is really going on inside the classroom, and we're proud of that work. At the same time, that brings a lot of cameras and new people, and we want parents to understand why we're opening up our schools, but also preserve their rights. And if they don't want their children to be in photos or on camera, they understand what's going on, why we're doing it, and how they can opt out of that process. So that's just a communication that we get to have, and we get to celebrate the fact that we are at this level of excellence now where people want to tour our schools and see the excellence going on within our halls. Another project that we're working on is job advertising and recruiting. You'll hear that we work on this a lot. I think we are to a place where we're being more intentional now about tracking what strategies we're using to recruit in some of those hard to recruit for positions. We have QR codes that track the number of scans as we distribute it different ways so we can focus our energy on distributing these advertisements in the methods that works best for our community. Another project is, again, as you heard earlier, starting the strategic planning process and just making sure that we have a plan to hit all stakeholders and engage everyone in our very large community. And then our last project in progress right now is we are going to start the process soon of long-range planning. We'll talk about that more probably over the coming months, but that's talking about our facilities, what needs exist in our facilities, and how we plan for things like growth. And again, we want a lot of people invited to that table so that they understand the needs of our facilities and schools. So we're excited to kick off that over the next couple of months. Some projects we completed recently, not sure if I can move that. We were excited to host a variety of tours, but one that I particularly appreciated seeing was our Chamber of Commerce tour. We saw a lot of local business owners and community members that we just really haven't seen in our schools since COVID, so it was great to open up our doors and have community members see what is really going on inside their Estacada schools, and we really look forward to doing more of that in February. We will have the opportunity for some parents to come into our schools and excited to facilitate that process some more. And just want to recognize the teachers and students that are brave in sharing their continuous improvement journey. We recently completed and will be sending out soon to families our 90-day rollout. This is the big, long production of a little bit of what you heard tonight, just talking about our pillars, our success, and our opportunities within each of our pillars and within each of our buildings and departments. So we're excited to peel back that layer a little bit more to our community. As Director Walper mentioned, we just rolled out another episode of our district news series. Again, we talk with operations and finance and try to create a digestible communication about what's going on in our schools. We look forward to continuing that. And then we recently had another Spanish-speaking family night, and we tried a new method of communication with families where we called and left voicemails, and we saw almost twice as many families show up. We had over 30 families show up, and so it's just another example of trying something new, recognizing when something is working, and committing to that action. So that is an overview of the communications department. Any questions?
questions for Maggie? All
All
right,
right.
thank you.
Thanks
Maggie.
again.
All right, we call back to the front. Mr. Mike Ware with Building and Facilities Report.
All right. Would like to start off with some of the RFPs that we have in place for the district. I'm going to move this maybe a little here. First, our heat pump split unit RFP 2023-1. It has been released. It released at the end of December. We have completed one site contractor visit, and we have another one scheduled for the end of this week. Right now, only 2 contractors are interested, but we expect to have at least 2 more come to the site meeting on Friday and submit a bid. The RFP closes next Friday, and we plan on making our selection committee will be getting together, reviewing all proposals, and then making a recommendation to the board of directors in February. District communication system, that RFP released late December as well. Again, working with some local contractors as well as some out-of-state and out-of-town contractors. Right now, we only have 2 interested parties, but we expect to just receive some more. Again, this RFP closes the end of January, and again, be able to hopefully have a selection committee make a proposal to the board of directors in February. That is the anticipated timeline, pending what we receive as proposals. Capital improvement projects, the River Mill seismic rehabilitation project, we are now at 90% design phase. We do anticipate that be 100% in early February. The grant funding right now status is our target bid is $1.4 million. Right now we're at 1.265 at that 90% design. That includes some of our additional shear walls, LED lighting and fixtures, as well as the soffit addition. And so we still are at a remaining funds of $67,000. We do expect some hazard material abatement, which will be already budgeted about $15,000 to $20,000. And so working with the contractors, WRK, we are just trying to find some smaller priced items that we can add to the list and still stay within our planned budget of $1.4 million. At the 100% mark in February, we plan on WRK as well as Cedar Mill, who is our CMGC, will be releasing the proposals or RFPs for contractors. At the same time, releasing or submitting for permit applications as well. Our plan is, again, still starting day after school ends in the summer and finishing up the day before school starts in the fall. I wanted to show the board real quick, just a quick status update on where we're at in some of our operational departments in terms of the data that we monitor each day and every day. Our data dashboard really gives us meaningful data for our leaders in operations to evaluate what is working well, what tweaks and adjustments need to be made, and again, what needs to be maintained. Preventative maintenance and work orders in our facilities department. As you can see, we are exceeding compared to the last few years. Our completion rate of work orders within the last 7 days is at 93%. Historically, we were down at below the higher 88%, 85%. And so we're progressing well. What we're doing is working. Our work order completion, as you can see in the white, this is 2022, 2023, is exceeding the previous years. Some of that's due just to the data entry. We recognize that we weren't adding all the work order requests that were coming in. And so we're starting to do every bit of work orders. So that's part of the reason, but also we're just getting really good at what we're doing. Our cleaning scores on an average is below 4, but we are doing quite well at each school. This is an example where our leader in facilities can look at these scores as far as cleaning, and if we go back to up-to-date buildings and facilities and identify what's working well at the middle school, what's working well at Clackamas River, and how can we help support the other schools. Right now, it's focused on the high school and how we can continue supporting that day crew and night crew. And then,
real quick, there's the window with the Zoom or the Google call on there. What's the at the middle school? Okay.
Yeah.
With the highest score.
Yep.
You think the kids are truly that emphatic about their building being clean at the middle school, or do they maybe not pay attention as much? Or, I mean, that's the oldest building we have, right?
It is. We've done a lot of, we've had a lot of investment in that school as well. I will say again, back to the turf field, that's helped keep our buildings clean as well. I know our building leadership as well as the department leadership is focused on the cleanliness of the buildings by engaging their students in different activities and different ways to ensure that they're taking ownership of their building as well. So I think that has a piece of it. And through our PDSA events, where we're collaborating with our custodian, our building leadership, and teachers to ensure our buildings are clean and ready for the next day.
One thing I will note on the middle school is the new orange garbage cans that are peppered around the grounds.
Very cool.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't miss them. Don't tell me you didn't see where the garbage
No,
can.
you cannot. I'm going to just, for time's sake, going to keep on moving forward. IT and our technical services, again, are really showing where service, they're putting their effort in service and exceeding our tickets every year. And as a department of 3 with plus 1 leader, that's an average of 700 people per tech person. If you count our employees, which is a big ratio to work through, we are maintaining our service and maintaining our completion rate as expected. And then finally, just transportation department. This is a bit of a messy graph, to say the least. But over here, we're able to, if I could do this correctly, this is our Zonar card tracking system. So we're able to identify the number of students riding on a particular asset, which our buses, if you will, on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. Our leader in transportation is able to monitor, let's say, asset 21, the number of students scanning in and not scanning in, rather, as well on that bus through the course of the month, through the course of the school year. Again, finding ways to attack or make tweaks to improve this. This is a key safety measure that we implemented as a district so that we know where our students are on the bus and parents know where their student is on the bus. So this is helpful, as we know that it's a challenge. So we lose cards. Cards don't work. Maybe the system has a barrier. So our transportation leadership is able to look at this data and make adjustments that will hopefully make an improvement in this area. And finally, I wanted just to inform the board that there's a lot of money out there from the state. And we have a couple grant opportunities that we're currently in the phase of working through. First one is the Emergency Shelter Grant, which is a grant that creates shelter for wildfire, also for cooling and warming centers. This is through the Department of Human Services. And there's approximately $12 billion that's out there in the state of Oregon. And the district has made it to the second phase of this process. We're now obtaining 3 bids to be able to submit to the state, as well as a concept paper on being able to install AC in both the main gyms at the high school. This would be used as a cooling center in the event of a warm day or very hot day, as well as a response to a wildfire. We'll have air scrubbers as well in there. So the bid, we'll be able to submit the bids. And again, this is going to allow us to act as a shelter as we have in the past, and then maintain temperature control during those times. We're excited for this opportunity, and we made it to the second phase. Renew American School, there's grant money that's out there to improve public K-12 school facilities. The funding is $500,000 to $15 million, which is quite the range. And we're working with McKinstry, who has also just completed our facility condition assessment, to submit the concept paper. Concept paper is due early January, or mid-January rather, and we'll find out as a district if we move it on to the second phase in May. And these are all focused on energy efficient type projects, LED lighting, again, indoor air quality or temperature control. And so we're focusing on a lot of those areas that we know are a big need within the district, and things that we want to keep tackling each year.
Is there a specific school, or are we looking at a district-wide?
District-wide.
Schools?
Yep, district-wide. With that range of money, we're going to try to go district-wide with it.
School goes, Santa needs to go to high school.
And then finally, this is a fairly new one that just got released, renewable energy, again, an energy grant project. grants that focus on projects like solar and wind, energy storage, electric vehicle charging stations. This is fairly new, and the grant application is due early February. I'm working with Christina Irish on this application. There are grants up to $100,000 in just the project planning and up to $1 million in construction. We're exploring these opportunities and plan on submitting this grant early February to hopefully be able to be awarded or make it to the next phase. So in short, a lot of opportunities for the district to keep improving its facilities, and to keep looking at what the need is and going forward. Questions?
I do. It seems like we're going after some potential grants for facility improvements. I'm sure that there's many other grants that we could potentially go after. Have we looked into potentially looking or going after grants that could help us bring workforce training to our, high school kids and creating alternative training for them? I'm sure that there's money out there, so I'm just wondering if there's an idea out there or someone looking into that we could explore. I know we've talked of offering, having other offerings for, after high school kids. Just putting a question out there for whoever wants to answer.
Sounds good.
I'll defer to, I
Sure,
don't have a lot of information on what grants we've got up there.
At this time, I don't think we have had an active pursuit. So we were engaged with in fact, we had several board members involved. We were engaged with a large business owner out of Clackamas, Mr. Terry Emmert, who was interested in funding and starting from the housing construction, building construction, from that perspective. But grants specifically, we haven't necessarily attended to yet. And that, yeah. But I'll definitely start working into that if that's what you'd like for us to start going through.
I think so, yes.
I agree.
And I would love to be part of that conversation.
Great.
I have some ideas, so.
Okay, great.
And we do currently have Measure 98.
Oh, that is a good point. We do have Ballot Measure 98, which is a grant fund that specifically works towards industry, college and career readiness. And so, for example, we've invested $100,000+ into our culinary arts program. We've overhauled our welding and manufacturing program through that, brought in agriculture into our school district. And so that, I guess that is one grant that we have utilized. Yep. But it's different than what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Super excited about the grants, right? So that's good opportunities out there. I would just ask, if we do open our gym as a shelter, can we give everybody booties because it's a brand new floor?
Yes. And no pets.
And
No
pets.
pets.
Otherwise, Jim Carrey's going to call and yell at me.
Absolutely, we would protect that floor. Thank you.
Of course. All right, any other questions for Mike? Thank you.
Mike.
All right, we'll call back up to the front. Ms. Christina Irish with the finance report.
Thank you for having me back. Okay, finance update for as of December 31st, 2022. I want to remind you that you did get a full packet in your board packet, so I am going to just give you a brief update, some highlights, as you would say. So for the general fund, you'll see our fiscal year projected for revenue is just $42.3 million, and sorry. And the fiscal year projections for expenditures is $37.5 million. This will leave us with an ending fund balance of $4.8 million. This is our final audited number for beginning fund balance, and this will leave us at the ending fund balance of about 13%. This is our budget to actuals report. You'll see our expenditures are about 38.3%, but our expenditures and our Encumbrances for instructional services is 92.1%. For support services, we year-to-date have spent 44%, but our year-to-date plus our encumbrances are 86.8%, and then we're projecting to fully spend out our other uses, which will be our transfers. And then for our capital projects funds, we're projecting revenue of 2.8 million about, expenditures of just about 2 million. So we're projecting an ending fund balance of about 782,000. And then our fund number, our enrollment number, this is as of December 31st, and we did see a little bit of a decline, but as I'm hearing, it went back up. We've seen some numbers coming in January, so I'm not too worried. But for the month ending, we've had 1,883 students through the district, and through the district plus the charter school, we're at 3,092 students. And there's your fun little chart comparison, still showing we're way up there. And it does, if you're looking, you can see that we typically do decline in December a little bit. And that is my finance update for you. Do you have any questions?
That decline, is that because students are graduating early, or?
No, it's really a combination of, this is winter break is a key moving time for families. And so there are a lot of families who were either displaced or for economical situations moved in with others, etc. And then like Christina also reported, you'll see most likely an upward swing because we got equal amounts of people who are relocating in. But it's pretty common that people move around this time of year.
Okay, so again, month 2 of a little bit of a shift on the financial report. So I just asked the group, is there anything that you feel wasn't covered or you'd like to see covered from Christina as we go through the finances, knowing we have the standard package in our board packet as we do every month? Nothing further? Okay.
One thing I will mention is we're getting in, the next time we meet is going to be February. We're getting into budget season.
Oh, yes.
So what do we need to do to get prepared for that, other than just show up?
Great question. I am going to be bringing hopefully a calendar to you for February, and I will be getting ready to post that I do have 3 vacancies coming into this next year. So I will be getting all that worked out and hopefully have a calendar for you to adopt that will show what we're going to be looking at.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question. All right. On to item F, superintendent's report.
I think with all of the data that's been shared, the superintendent is going to rest in his report today.
Yield your time.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Note that
This is
date down.
growth. Yeah. That's a win on one of those slides.
We all just got like an hour back, you know. All right, we're not done with reports yet, though. On to item G, reports and presentations. So we have the Title III State English Language Learners Annual Report by Jen Berman.
Hello. Let me get my slides. Go. Okay. So I am here to present the English Learners of Oregon Annual Report from the Oregon Department of Education. And this report is for 2020-21 school year. It was presented to us in June of 2022, and therefore we are presenting it now. So it is some lagging data. Still important, though, for us to know where our state's at with these English learners, and also I gave you some current data just so you have something to celebrate towards the end. We'll get there. Really, it's some highlights. This report is posted on our website. I do encourage you to take a look at it when you have some time and want to think about it, because there is some really important trending data with our English learners, and that is the full full report that you can check that out. But here's some highlights in that year, and again, 2020-21 school year. 96% of the Oregon's K-12 population was current EL students, that are students that are currently in an English language program, and they're being served in their schools. 88.7% were former English learners, which means they've exited the program because they had showed proficiency in our marker, which is our ELPA, and had shown proficiency in that, so we're able to exit the program, but we still monitor and track and support them if needed. An interesting fact, too, is that 2/3 of those current English learners are mostly K-5 elementary across the board for Oregon. 373 of our current English learners were recent arrivers, and that has declined. Just a tidbit to what you'll hear in 2 years about this year is we've actually seen an uptick in that, and have recently had some new arrivers even in January. So we're supporting that and bringing those into our schools, which is a great opportunity for us. We have 196 districts in Oregon. 146 of them provide English language instruction. Of those that don't, those 50 don't even have current English learners enrolled. So another interesting fact. Spanish is our predominant home language across Oregon at 76%, and of our current English learners speaking Spanish, and then the rest of them, there's an overall of 181 other languages spoken in the home that are supported through our English learners. Talking about attendance and graduation and beyond, I kind of pulled this bit out because it seems to be an important factor with this group of students. But our current English learners, the ones that are being supported by service, have lower attendance rates, and it is declining, especially between elementary to high school. So as the older they get, the less they're attending school. So definitely an opportunity that we had back then, and then have put some plans in place so that we can report on that better down the road. In 2021, 64% of our English learners graduated in 4 years, and 84% of our former English learners graduated in 4 years. The reason we state 4 years is we also track the 5-year students that it took a little longer to graduate. Of those that graduated, we had 24.5% that earned the Oregon State Seal of Biliteracy. And I will say for our district, we have really upped our percentage as well with that, which is exciting. And 42% of those English learners were enrolled in a post-secondary institution after graduation in 2021. So for some of our kind of Estacada facts, because I like to sprinkle that in since this is talking mostly about Oregon, that in that year, our 4-year graduation was 79%, and our 5-year was 86% for our current ELs. And then we grew, I'll stop on the grow part, but then we had 85%, that's in comparison to all students who were our 4 and 5-year at 87%. But I'm happy to report, and I'm going to end on the positive before I go to questions, but you will hear for this last year that our graduation rate for our English language learners was 100%. So very exciting, a huge contribute to everyone working in the program, all of our classroom teachers and our English language specialists who have really dived in, looked at each student by student, what they need, what supports they need to increase that score. But you'll hear it again in a couple of years from the Oregon Department of Education's report.
In a couple of years.
Any questions?
Just so I'm understanding all these numbers. 2021, if they're an English learner, 64% graduate.
Across the state.
Yes.
So that's a statewide number. And what does that correlate to Estacada on the other side?
79%.
79%.
So if we can boost them out of the, I don't know if boost is the right word, but get them to be a former English learner, statewide they have a 20% better chance of graduating in 4 years.
Yes.
And then we have a 7% better chance, right?
Yes. Yeah. Getting them to be former is always our goal. It means they've met proficiency in their ELPA scores, and the sooner we do that, the better, just to give them more opportunities, and it means that they're meeting the benchmarks across the board.
And so then to back up a slide, approximately 2/3 of the current English learners are K-5. Is that a pretty normal range for the split? And then does that mean that most of them are graduating out of that or moving out of that program at 6th grade, 7th grade?
Yeah, the goal is, majority of our kids are in kindergarten because they come in identified and start our program, and the goal is to get them out as soon as possible because it means we've gotten them up to the proficiency level. So that is typical. It'd be even better if it was less because that means we're getting them out sooner.
Okay, and one last question on this. Just to play devil's advocate, not that any school district would ever do anything for money, but is there a financial incentive to keep them in the program?
Not at all.
So once they graduate out, the finances coming into the school
Yeah.
don't?
There is. We receive 0.25 additional ADM weighting for each child identified on ELL.
But Estacada would never do that. But I'm not saying that other school districts across the state may or may not do that.
It's possible.
Allegedly.
It's possible.
Yeah. And sorry, the part I'm talking about is the Title III funding is just a pretty small percentage, and it's based, it covers very little, and so we depend on a lot of other things to fund that.
Awesome.
But I'll just share that it is a frustrating system.
Yes.
As having kids going through that program, to get your kids out of that program, it's tedious. It's a pain. So I wish we could fix it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rosa.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Jen. All right, did we get Polly Rogers on the system? All right, so next up is, I don't remember if it's Tara or Tara. I think it's Tara Kemp from Polly Rogers. Tara, are you with us?
Yes, that's correct. It's Tara. Good
Perfect.
evening, Board of Directors. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm sorry I'm not on video. I had some technical difficulties. But thank you for having me here this evening. I'm here to present the results of the June 30, 2022 financial statement audit for the district. And what I'll do is go over the governing body letter that is included in your packet. And that is a nice little letter that summarizes everything we're required to communicate with you. So on page 1 of the letter, we start out by going over the purpose of the audit. The purpose of the audit is threefold. We perform the financial statement audit, where we test and assess the financial statements created by management in order to determine if they're fairly stated. Next, we perform the Oregon Municipal Audit Law, Oregon Minimum Standards Procedures, and that is a compliance audit over different laws and regulations. And lastly, we perform the federal single audit, and that is specific to various federal grants that the district receives to determine if the district is in compliance. And so on page 2, we cover the results of the audit. And overall, the results are very good. For the financial statement audit, we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. That's a clean opinion with no reservations. For state minimum standards, we found one exception or issue requiring comment, which is noted in the audit on page 87. For federal awards, we found no issues of noncompliance and no question costs. And we had no separate management letter issued. So overall, that's very good. And as Christina talked about earlier, the district for the first time prepared that ACFR, that ACFR, the large report that's submitted for awards. And so that's a great accomplishment because it's a substantial amount of work for the district to put together. So congratulations on that. Down below, we note that the district implemented GASB statement number 87 in the June 30, 2022 fiscal year. That was a really big undertaking, changing the way governments account for leases. And then on page 3, we note that we encountered no difficulties in performing and completing our audit, and we had no disagreements with management over accounting and auditing issues, so both excellent. And then lastly, on page 4 or 5, we give a summary of future accounting issues and standards coming out, and those are good to be aware of because they can affect the financial statements of the district and potentially create more work for the finance office as well. So it's good to be aware of those things coming out in the future. So overall, excellent results, and I'd be happy to take questions if anyone has any.
Thank you, Tara. I do have one. I'm on page 87 of the report, and you'll just save me a lot of speed reading if you could call out what that one exception was and what it was in reference to.
Oh, that was regarding the transportation report. Part of our testing is looking at the different factors that go into the calculation of ADM. And one of those things was the transportation report submitted to ODE. And we noted a number on there that was incorrect because it was like a typo. And so we had to report that in that letter.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions for Tara on the audit? Everybody has some light reading to do tonight?
Yes.
Well, Tara, thank you very much. We appreciate all that you do, and it's a big undertaking, and I know that Christina and the rest of the group appreciates your partnership when you guys come in to do the audit and how you conduct that, and giving us an opportunity to put our best foot forward. So we appreciate you and your work to make sure that we know that our work is clean. Yes. So we appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, if there's anything else, let me know. I can always be contacted. But other than that, everyone have a very good night.
All right. Thank you, Tara. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anything further that we need to do? I know every once in a while there's a letter that comes out that.
Not unless there's a finding that we need to address.
Okay.
I think we're good. All right. But the question there for the record was, is there anything else that we need to do with that report? And the answer is no. So if there's major findings, then there are steps that we need to take, but with no findings, we're good to go. All right, next up, strategic plan with student education, Kathy Orapollo, who's been patiently waiting all evening. Come on down.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share this proposal with you. I'd like to pause and just say a few things about this partnership and about the work. And if you notice, the strategic plan is called 2.0 because, as you could see tonight, there are so many amazing foundational things that this district has been able to accomplish. We're not talking about reinventing the wheel here. We're talking about building on what we started. So I think that's just really important to say. I also want to say that Estacada is now leading the way in continuous improvement nationally. They're getting a lot of exposure through conferences, sharing their improvement story, and they're being recognized as leaders in this field and in this area of improvement science. I also want to thank Ryan and you for letting Ryan tell his story nationally. He's been writing about it and published in several places, and I think it's important that this work contributes to the overall profession in a really powerful and impactful way, and I think it's told best through the people that are doing the work. It's been a privilege to be a thought partner with this group. I feel like a part of the team. I've been with them since the first year of operationalizing the first strategic plan, and the growth and the change over time has been really impressive. And finally, because of the working relationship that we all have with this district, we've been able to provide a significant reduction in the cost of the strategic plan based on our relationship and our partnership over time. So I just wanted to say that before I jumped right into what we're going to do next and what you think of that. So if we move forward, you know, I think this quote says it best, is that this isn't about fixing something that's broken. It's about a mindset of getting better at getting better, and I think we do that really well. This particular visual shows our work with people, culture, strategy, and results. And I think what I like the most about this visual is it shows you some of the things that they've been able to accomplish in the first strategic plan. You saw a lot of the data tonight in employee experience and engagement. You know, your accolades through the Oregonian, all of those people, you have a 92% retention rate. That's really powerful in a time where most districts are struggling for staffing. Your culture has, you know, they've built standards of excellence that you see on the walls in every building that show the values that you want to live by and how we want to interact with each other. You've been able to create a culture of improvement from the boardroom to the classroom, as Vice Chair Wheeler so eloquently said a little while ago. You know, the same language, the same process is happening here and with kids that I saw today, which was really impressive. And you've empowered your staff. You see your staff as leaders, again, whether it's classified or certified. So that's really powerful. Strategy, you've aligned and cascaded the work. So aligning means that your arrows are starting to point in the same direction and you're working together towards a common outcome. And there's a lot of shared ownership and co-ownership of the work. You know, the leader rounding has allowed you to constantly create a feedback loop with the stakeholders, and it's allowed you to be able to hear the voices of the people that you're serving. And that's been a powerful piece that's informed your data and informed your pillar work and continues to inform it. You've advanced your PLC work. You've received awards for that as being a model school. And so not only are you advancing work in the area of continuous improvement, but you're also seen as a leader in the area of professional learning communities. And also you've created a data dashboard that is probably one of the most unique that I've seen across the country. And the work that that dashboard is, Michael Ware has been directly involved with that, has given us language and visual data to look at our progress, to look at where we have opportunities to improve, and also how we can tell our improvement story in a meaningful way. And finally, the area of continuous improvement and results, you saw that. I won't go into that too much because you saw so many examples of that we're constantly striving to do better. And even when we've reached a level of a 4.4 or above, we're still striving to do better. So I think that's really impressive. So this 2.0 is really about, you know, how do we continue to do the work? How do we continue to align and cascade? And so that visual there with the arrows moving in the same direction, we're getting tighter and tighter, which is strengthening your system that's allowed you to deal with a pandemic, that's allowed you to deal with wildfires and natural disasters, and it's also allowed you to influence your neighboring districts and the region and the work that you're doing. We now have existing partners that are so interested in the work, they're joining in this work. So where are we going next? Really what we want to do is we want to review and confirm some of the work that we've already done. So we want to look at our existing vision, mission, and core values and say, does this still look right? Does it represent who we are now? 5 years can make a big difference. We don't necessarily want to throw things out if they're working. And you can see we have some foundational things, but we want to get that feedback from our stakeholders around that. We also want to refine and align. So we want to make sure that the strategic plan aligns to the work that we're doing and vice versa. So we want to make sure there's common language. We want to make sure that the priority areas, those pillars that we're working on, continue to be our areas of high priority. And we want to be able to identify goals and align measures that fit with those pillars and the language of those pillars. These areas are the areas that we're going to look at to review, refine, and align. These are the basic core areas of a strategic plan. And hopefully, as we do that work, we'll decide how the foundation that we built already can take us to into the next 5 years and the next level. This is our process. We have a very a colleague of mine calls it elegantly simple but powerful process. So we start with discovery. We gather and analyze where we are. We look at the current state. We look at what's working well that you want to keep doing. We look at areas and opportunities to grow, change, or improve. And then we begin to use that data, pull it together. We identify a steering committee from the data, from the focus groups, from the listening sessions that we do. And that steering committee will kind of synthesize that data. We also survey the community again with the results from the focus groups and the listening sessions and the discovery sessions, so that we're constantly creating that feedback loop back and forth throughout this process. We take this survey, and that goes to the steering committee, and we're constantly refining those areas of focus, setting goals. We go back and forth with the community 2 or 3 times before this process is done. So we kind of do a last call once our draft goes to the board for review, and we do a town hall and an employee forum, and one more reach out to the community with the draft that we have at hand to see if there's anything missing that we need to consider one more time before we bring it to you for final approval. So it's a nice plan. It involves everybody. It has multiple opportunities for public input and feedback, and it builds on where you are right now. Just to give you an idea, this is very inclusive. We want to make sure that we're reaching out. So some of the things that we'll do are one-to-one interviews with some of these stakeholders. We will do focus groups across these areas. So we're going to look at parents, we're going to look at students, we're going to look at community members, business partners, employees, from classified, certified operations across the system, and we're going to build that into some of the listening sessions that have already occurred to create some impact through their voices in the community. This is our kind of our timeline. Generally, what we like to do is start gathering that data right away and identifying the steering committee. Part of the work that we want to do over time, we want to be ready by June if we can, with a final approval of the strategic plan, so that we can use July and August to plan the rollout of that, so we can start the next calendar year with a final strategic plan. So I'll give you a minute to look at that timeline, see if there's anything there you have questions about.
So it says steering committee meeting number 1, but I don't see an established steering committee before that. So I'm assuming that's an established.
January.
Sorry.
Yeah,
just
that's
a little
okay.
glare.
Yeah.
There it is. It's the second bullet point. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Any questions about that timeline? So again, we're working towards just trying to, we want to be able to have time to plan and launch a rollout for the fall. And that's really the process at a very high level. And throughout the process, we'll update you. We'll come back and update you and report out where we are in the process, what that process looks like.
So is this timeline each and every year, or is it something that's continuous, and if something doesn't meet it, it moves out? Well, how does this work?
This is a 5-year strategic plan.
5-year plan. So if everything doesn't get done in the first year, do we move it out a little bit, or do we start consolidating to make it happen?
We review every year. We use the scorecard as the primary operational tool of the plan. We review that every year, and as we accomplish goals, we move through that plan. If we find that we're lagging in an area, we'll roll that over into the next year.
The thing I like about this, and I'm new to this, but is the goal setting and the buy-in. I think that's very important. I've seen that in business all my life. If you don't get buy-in, it's not going to happen. And that's, it's good. Now, how many school districts in Oregon are working with this?
That's a great question. I know of at least, there's about 5 that I know currently are working on a strategic plan at that stage. Some of them are past that stage and are doing more than that. So your neighboring districts are doing scorecard work now to operationalize their strategic plan. They've already passed through that process. Around the country, we probably have 100 districts working through this process. So some of them are at the strategic planning stage, some of them are past that.
I got one more question for you.
Sure.
This is a small district. Are the majority of the other districts that are involved smaller districts, more rural like we are? Or do you have any that are like in Portland or San Francisco or Los Angeles or Seattle?
Yes.
Do you really?
Yes.
That's awesome.
We have all sizes, small, medium, large districts.
Okay.
The great thing about continuous improvement, no matter what size you are, no matter who you are, the process is virtually the same. So that's the power in the process. It's really how we execute around that process that really matters the most.
Thank you.
For fun.
For fun.
For fun. The Estacada School District was really one of the first school districts in Oregon to partner with Studer, who is based out of Florida. And since our industry-leading work here at Estacada, in just Clackamas County alone, North Clackamas, Colton, Molalla, Clackamas ESD, and soon to be Canby are all jumping on with Studer because of the work that we did.
Cool. That's great.
Do we get a commission for that?
I was going to say, finder fee? Yes,
That's that deep discount I talked
I
about.
was just going to say, it's built into that discount.
We are receiving a significant discount.
Well, and I will say, Kathy, that with the continuous improvement work that we've partnered with Studer on, that's a lot of heavy lifting, right, of changing mindsets, changing language, changing how we look at things, how we track them. I'm excited about the potential opportunity to have that same mentality from the onset of our next strategic plan.
Yes.
As opposed to we built the plan and then we tried to feed new language, new processes, new ideas. And I see some head nods of people that were part of that heavy lifting as we implemented that. So I do think that poses a unique opportunity to align the work that we're doing now, the work that we have been doing for the last several years, the trajectory that we're on, that we see, that we know, that we can then continue to push and maybe have a better idea of what those final strategic plan results should be based on a number of years of actual work and actual results through the partnership of Estacada School District and Studer. So,
And the shorter sprints of being able to use the scorecard in those cycles let us know where we are so that we can stay ahead of that strategic plan year by year.
yeah.
Thank you.
And Director Walper, to your point, that adjustment, that's where those 90-day cycles of improvement really come into play, so that we're not waiting a year and then saying, how'd we do, right?
Right.
So that's why those 90-day cycles are so important.
What we just did.
Is the PDSA, right? So we've got to look at it, we've got to review it, is it working, is it not working, and moving forward, which is it's how we're able to sustain that growth and maximize it in a shorter period of time.
Along the same lines as what Ken was just saying, I'm excited about building upon what we already have with a partner that we're already both vested in, and I think it's going to accelerate us, and we're going to just be able to build an even better plan, and so I think it's exciting to start this work again.
I agree. I think it's going to be great. I was very, I just want to say, today was very impressive doing the observations and seeing everybody at every level using common language. It's a real sign of change in a culture, so.
Well, the nice thing about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, is I see it's not a one system fits all. It's you know, every district is living and breathing and different. So the general schematic is great, but you can also make adjustments to that schematic depending on the views and values of the school district.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions for Kathy?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Kathy.
you being here and hanging in for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you.
For Kathy, it's almost midnight Eastern time.
All right. That was our last report. On to item H, discussion, and we do have a discussion item. We wanted to talk through the Patinkin polling questions, so I know that there was some discussion this week. I believe we do have a full copy in your packet that we can look through. So there was a couple questions. There was a question that we wanted to pull out, but at the same time, if we're looking at those, wanted to have a full review, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to look through, see what questions that they may potentially have questions or concerns about, so we can make any other adjustments that we feel like we need to make. So I'll start off. There was one question about combining schools that I think collectively we agreed that that's not one that we want to entertain at this point in time. So I believe that, oh, sorry, I should call Maggie down. So I believe that's already been removed.
Yes.
And I think that maybe the origin of that was, I know I had said something about Seaside. They just built a new high school, middle school combo, and I think there's a wrestling tournament or something there, and somebody said, hey, it's an idea for us to cater. So I apologize if that landed on there.
No, and it also came up in a secondary discussion where we know that the wings of the high school hallway just dead end into what is we call the practice soccer field back there. And so the high school technically is built to be added on. And so that's where that came from too. But we have eliminated that. So.
Yeah, I guess I have some questions around the timelines of the polling.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I guess, yeah. First, can I ask the timeline of when we feel this is important that this go out and be done by?
We'd like to do it as soon as possible. We tentatively have the call center booked for, I believe it was January 17th, but of course we wanted your feedback first. And they keep calling until they get 400 people that are willing to answer the survey. So generally, we see that take about a week. So we can go into both long-range planning and strategic planning, just kind of with an idea of where we stand, which I think will be important to inform our work moving forward.
I worry that maybe we aren't asking enough or the right questions to inform. I mean, I think Joe brought up a point about, you know, we had a lower number last time we polled. That's been completely removed now. And then now if we're removing this combining, I mean, I'm just worried, like, are we really ready to make that decision tonight that these polling questions are ready to go for the 17th? And is this something that could be done with like a subgroup of people, Maggie, you know, just finalize and come back with, here's our recommendation of what should be, you know, so we can do it faster and feel, I don't know. I just want to not miss this opportunity to get good feedback from our community.
I'll tell you, I'm not comfortable with this at all.
Okay.
And think out of the box for a minute. There's too much here. I think when you do a poll, you have to be quick, concise, and short. Not, I mean, I'd probably hang up on the guy.
Thousands do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't make it.
And I want you to think out of the box for a second. You know, we're going to pay a lot of money for this. Okay. My thought, and just kind of think about this, because it may not be right, but my thought is if we could get some students, because if you started out with something like, hi, I'm John, and I'm with the Estacada, I'm a senior with the Estacada school system in Estacada High, and I am conducting a poll for the school board, and I get extra credit for it. Bingo, you got my attention. Estacada, you're going to Estacada. This is a poll about Estacada. He's a student at Estacada. You got my attention. I don't know, if you start doing this, you get halfway through and you find out it's Eugene. You don't know that it's Estacada. So you hang up. And maybe we give some kids some extra credit or some brownie points of some sort. And I think, hi, I'm a senior at Estacada High, and I'm doing a poll for the school board, and man, quick, 3 minutes at the most. This one, and this one, and it's done. This is, you've lost me on a poll like this.
And I can understand that perspective, and that is one perspective of it, right?
Right, that's why I said I'm thinking out of the box.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I do think there's merit in student voice, especially when we're talking bonds.
Absolutely.
One thing that comes up is, this is what Patinkin does for a living, right? So no different than what Studer
That
does
doesn't
for a
make it
living.
right.
Doesn't make it right, but it does make it at least a valid point to listen to, in my mind. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Okay.
So the other part is trying to find phone lines for students to call on, time for students to call. To get 400 responses, it takes how many dials?
For every one person, they usually have to call about 8 or 9 people.
8 or 9. So that's another hurdle, potentially, if we want to get a hold of 400 people. How do we set aside time for Estacada students to call? Where are they calling from? How are we supervising them? We're not going to ask them to call from home because of caller ID.
Right.
There's some concerns there.
Do you have a work study program? Do we have that here?
I feel like first off, can we start back at the beginning and all align on what the goal is of the survey?
Sure.
I think
Okay.
that's the most important thing, and then how the survey actually gets executed is kind of a I don't know, to me secondary, but it's like, what's the purpose of this survey and why are we asking this question now? And then as long as we all align on that, then I think it's the execution of it and what the questions are, I think can come second. I don't know what you think, John, but that's kind of, I feel like, are we all on the same page as why we want to
It
ask?
definitely needs to be shortened.
But why do we want to do this? I think, can we start back and answer that first?
I think ultimately we want to do it to see what the community's temperature is on passing a bond. And to do that, we need to get a good pulse on where they stand. And sometimes if you ask the question one way, they might answer it this way. And that to your point, John, that's why it is long, is because they have the information and the data to back it up, that if we ask it this way, they might answer this way, but if we answer the same question in a different format, we're going to get a different answer. And if we ask it a third or a fourth time, okay, we know that they're actually going to say yes or no.
And then they do regression analytics and test for validity and all of the scientific things.
And at the end of the day, I think the goal is to get a true reading on where the community is on whether we've tipped the scale to say, yes, we have enough support to pass a bond, or pump the brakes, we need to do X, Y, and Z. We're hearing that they don't care about roofs or whatever the thing is, and we need to maybe shift our focus for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 25 years since the last bond, and change course and do some corrective action.
Yeah, but how do you get a true figure when you have to make 9 phone calls to get 3 people to answer?
We get it.
So can we go back in history of when was the last time that we did the polling, and what did we learn out of that? And what are we doing this time different to change the outcome, maybe?
We did the polling for the last time in sometime in 2021, so it has been a while. I think part of this is to see if people's opinions and price sensitivities have changed since we reopened schools. COVID is less of a pressing issue, and we've had that fire recovery. The last time we polled, we were still kind of in this, schools are closed, COVID is still prevalent, and we just recovered from the fires. So I think we want a non-biased, detailed look at where our community stands right now, so we know what areas we need to target and we know how far we need to bring our community in order to have support on a bond, as well as look at price sensitivities, testing 3 different points, because we don't really know what direction we want to go with our communication until we know what direction our community supports.
But the polling that we did back then, are we basically at, have you seen part of the whole planning and the polling? Are we changing? What are we changing, I guess, this time around? Without us having to go back and look at what we did last time, do you know?
It's very similar in order to see what changed over time. A couple of things that stand out to me that changed, the price points did change. We're in a different world with interest rates right now. But also, the good news is that we have completed a couple of projects around our schools that we were able to take off of the bond ask. So we've removed a couple of things, like a turf field, like some of our HVAC that we're working on. We've removed those things, and then we've changed the price points relevant to what a bond would cost today. It has changed.
This proposed questionnaire really is broken into 3 categories, and it is vital because we're in a funky situation where we don't want to move too fast because we don't know necessarily what the community wants. But as we finish that breath, there's also this invisible sense of urgency that says we need to hustle towards whatever it is we're going towards. And so this poll is vital to me, particularly because I need to know where I need to start framing and investing our conversation. Does the community have only the price threshold for us to repair, just repair the things that exist inside our school district? Have we been effective in our communication over time that says we have a capacity issue? And so I need to know in the other 2 buckets, does the community have the threshold and the stomach for a conversation about a brand new elementary school building? Or does the community have the stomach and the threshold to have a conversation about a brand new high school? One's $120 million, one is $40 million, and the other is $12 million. And so this poll specifically asks that threshold, which will point us in a direction of where to start focusing our time, energy, efforts, and resources.
And I think the other thing that we've seen in previous polls is the community at large agrees with what we need to spend money on.
Correct.
That's not a question. I think the last time was like 76 or 78% were like, absolutely, we agree 100%, we need this, we need this, we need this.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, well, this is how much it's gonna cost to pay for it. And they're like, no, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the approval number went from pushing 80% to like 48 to 52%.
Correct.
And so that's the number, to Ryan's point, to help support that. That's where we need to get a better understanding is, are people willing to step up based on what we have done as a district, the improvements that we've continued to make, that we've committed to making, and in a different economic situation. Although that pains me to say it right now. But again, remember when we had polled, it was the COVID fire year, and as a group it was said, hey, we feel good about where we're at, let's throw it out there and see, and let the community talk with their vote. And they talked with their vote and said no. And so the other thing we don't want to do is continually go out and continue to get no's, because that builds that muscle memory, right? And now you're other neighboring districts who passed their first bond a couple years ago in like 35 years. And so that's where the information is so important. And again, it's much more technical than just asking a couple questions. This is an art, it's a science of how do you ask the questions. If you get this response, you frame it differently later in the conversation for a second ask, and you can see those change where we asked, and I'm just gonna use fake numbers. We asked 50 million at the beginning, and it was a 42% yes. And by the end of the survey, that 42% went to 51%, yes, they would support it, after they heard more about the details of what is in there. And we were able to learn, scientifically, however you want to put it, learn how to phrase things in a way that helps them see the value in what we're asking them to do. So it's a much larger and more intricate conversation with just an incredible amount of analytics that can come out of it. But to your point, did it answer your question? Why are we doing the survey? Because we want to see if we go up for bond.
I think that's helpful. I mean, so if we keep that in mind as we decide how to proceed with this survey. I think that's important. I also just want to call out that one of the benefits of using this Patinkin research strategies is they do take a look at our demographics, right? And they make sure that those 400 folks represent our community in percentage-wise somehow, right?
Yeah, they're looking for a good amount of college graduates that represents the amount that we have in Estacada, the amount of high school graduates, men versus women.
Voting propensity.
People that vote. They're always looking for people that are voting in the election. So it's more set up as a research project, and that's why it looks so rigorous and is a little overwhelming when you look at the packet. We timed this survey out. It's a little over 14 minutes, so a 14-minute conversation seems a little less overwhelming, and this is actually shorter than surveys that we've put out in the past. We've had 18-minute surveys in the past. We eliminated a couple of questions. Another thing that I think is relevant to look at now is last time we did this, almost 60% of the people we polled described the bond as not a priority right now due to COVID-19. So I don't think that's as relevant of a situation right now, so it would be interesting to get the research again without that element as present.
I'm also curious because over the course of this growth in the last 12 months, the city of Estacada has moved from a Republican majority to a Democratic majority inside the city limits. And so I'm really curious from my own interest to see how data has shifted with that political ideology shift as well.
I think it'll make a great deal of sense when you see everything that Patinkin or whatever we choose to go with, but Patinkin is able to pull out so much data out of it because they construct it this way that I think that is why they do it this way. They're able to give us breakdowns based off of specific demographics that we wouldn't know otherwise, that we really lose support with this certain group of people, and we need to work with those groups and bring them to the table more. And because it's constructed with these certain demographics, that's the only way that we're able to get those answers.
And back to your point, John, I think you're going to get more people to stay on the phone if you're talking to a high school student. I don't disagree with that at all. And I would love to use that in the get out the vote once we're ready to go. Like, hey, it's coming up. Please support the school. We need you. But I also know through previous experience, if a high school student calls and says, would you support this? A lot of people are going to say yes, just because they don't want to tell a high school student no over the phone, right? They just don't want to say no and break your heart. So you just get a lot of false positives when you try to go that kind of direct connect and heartstrings conversation to get accurate data. But once we're ready to go, absolutely, let's get out the vote, let's pick up the phone, let's make calls, let's connect with community members to let them know that this is Estacada, this does directly impact me as a student. I think that's where we could really maximize that effort.
Well, I think you'd get a lot more people responding to you if you could get that 14 minutes out of there and get it down to 5 to 7. 14 minutes is, I'm not going to be on the phone with anybody for 14 minutes, not even my wife.
This hard copy that we have, is this the updated version?
No, we still have a question in there, and I'm glad that we put it in front of you guys, because I agree, once Superintendent Carpenter cascaded that info, that the high school combining question, it does not come across with an intent that we wanted
Well,
to.
I
So
feel like it would sidetrack the whole intent
Yes.
of the survey again.
That has
Because
been edited.
Unless we know that that's the direction we want to go, that's why I get worried about some of these questions. I want to make sure that they're not framed in such a way that we've set ourselves in a direction that we may or may not be.
Right.
Or just create a perception of a problem that doesn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So it's an idea. We're not saying we like it, don't like it. It's something somebody else did, but unfortunately we know that that's not how everybody receives those messages, and there'd be Facebook posts for days about how we're already decided that we're going to combine the high school and middle school, and how dare them, and I can read them now, although I can't because I don't have Facebook.
Makes my stress line.
And I do see that there's the 3 price points, the 40, 50, and 150, 120.
Yeah.
I guess it's just, again, what are we pulse checking? Is it the price point and the areas of interest or concern or support? And do we feel that we have the right areas listed?
Yes to the first part. That is what we're measuring, is the interest in the price point. I'm with you in I think your level of confidence and my level of confidence of, are we asking the right questions? I think so, question mark.
Well, like, we have the heating and cooling is still in here.
But it's,
That's still a major question.
Okay, but exactly, okay, so, but yet, the perception of the community is, well, you're addressing it. So why would you come and ask for a bond for it? Because we did pull the, field. So again, I'm just wanting to just kind of do one more pass of like, are we really asking the questions that we feel is going to give us the best information, especially for the strategic plan and the direction we're heading? I mean, I agree, I think it's super important, and I want to get it out there. I just want to make sure we take advantage of this opportunity and ask the right questions.
Yep. So do we want to potentially pull together a workshop? If we
I
want
think
to, if
that'd
we
be a
want to
good
do it.
idea.
I mean, if we're not ready to say, yes, we like these questions, then I think we need to do that and do that soon.
Out of respect to the sense of urgency, I wonder if we could pick 2 or 3 board members so we could work swiftly without,
Yep.
and allow those 2 or 3 board members to report back to the board at our next meeting to allow us to move fast
Or not, or before the next meeting.
before the next meeting, correct?
Okay, I thought you said.
Yeah,
by
report to the remaining board members.
Okay.
How the process went.
And this is not a thing that requires a vote, so it's not like we have to wait till the next meeting, so.
That's correct.
So this is just this was a heads up, these are the questions.
Yep.
Hands raised like, hey, we want to verify these questions. So it's not like it has to wait and get voted on.
That's
So
true.
we could say, we could find, in my mind, there is a sense of urgency here that we need to get rolling on it. If we can, and we're not going to put out a terrible product, right? But
Right.
if we felt like one good sit down, if those who wanted to participate took the time, reviewed it, if we had a meeting by next Tuesday
Yeah.
for a committee meeting, and have whomever feels passionate about being at that, can be at that, and then have that decision made. What I would say is, if you are passionate about making sure that you understand those questions, then please make sure you're there. So don't not show up and then not like the questions that we end with, would be my personal ask, please. So I think that's appropriate, yes.
More than
More than
Well,
four.
we would propose to have 3.
yes.
Yeah.
I think we should select 3, in my opinion.
Yes.
Which I would be good with.
Really, that's great. We need to have 2 because Rochelle is one of them.
I will nominate myself to not be one of them. I trust your good judgment.
Oh, no.
Because of the urgency.
And yours,
I
John.
will Diddle that. I cannot.
Okay.
So who is?
Is Joe, are you around early next week, or have a high propensity to be involved in this? If not, I will join in.
Yeah, I'm happy to help.
Okay,
I'd like to be in it.
okay. So we'll have Director Shibahara, Director Walper, and Director Berman. So Denise, can you send out like a poll just to figure out what day and time is good for those 3? Pretty please, that would be super.
Great. Great discussion.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks, Maggie.
All right. On to item I. Should speak in the microphone. Hearing of citizens for action items.
None.
None. This is where the agenda picks up a little bit. Item J, action items. The consent agenda includes a package of 1 or more items to be voted on as a unit. However, if any board member is not in favor of 1 or more agenda items and prefers to take separate action, a request to the chair anytime prior to the vote will remove that item for a separate vote. So on to J1, a motion for the consent agenda.
You're right, I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? And I think, Director Berman, you can vote audibly whenever you want to unmute. So it's been moved, seconded. No discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand, or if you're remote, say aye.
Aye.
Carries?
All right, item K, to approve the student education partnership for the strategic plan.
Chair Idell, I move to approve Resolution 2223-3 for student education to partner with Escalade School District and facilitate development of a 5-year strategic plan as presented.
Second.
Second and thirded. It's been thirded. All right, I know we heard from Kathy with Studer. Any additional discussion?
Looking forward to the process.
I would just reiterate that I am excited to partner with somebody who we're already well acquainted with and have done a lot of heavy lifting and work with over the last number of years. And I'm excited to see how that alignment translates into the next strategic plan, for sure. Okay, any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand or say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are on to item L, hearing of citizens for non-action items.
None.
And that means item M, which is the last one, adjournment. Thank
And look at
everybody.
what time that adjournment
I
is
know,
set
I
for.
see that. That was pretty impressive.
Huh?
Right on
Must be
time.
the chair.
Good job, Denise.